Hello everyone, and welcome back to Smaugust 2023. For those of you who are just tuning in now, I'd recommend checking out the first week of Smaugust to get caught up on exactly what I'm doing. But for those of you who insist on starting in the middle, in short, Smaugust is a challenge where an artist draws one dragon every day for the entire month of August. And this year, I'm doing a How to Train Your Dragon inspired list with dragon species from the franchise. So, without any further ado, here are my 7 week 3 drawings for Smaugust 2023. Day 13 was the Firewyrm, a unique little dragon that I don't think appears in any of the movies. The Firewyrm is a little lizard-sized dragon that live in colonies similar to anthills. Appearance-wise, they look a lot like salamanders, but with 3 or more sets of legs, and their unique trait is that their skin glows like hot coals. This particular dragon may be inspired by the legend that salamanders are born from fire, which is another cool Eastern inspiration for these dragons. As such, I of course used salamanders as my real-world reference for my nature guide sketch art style, and illustrated the glow coming from between the scales. Having an appearance similar to the crackling surface of molten lava, it was hard to find a good balance between external shading and the internal illumination. This was the first drawing where I focused a little more on the backdrop and added a glow effect around the character. Up until now, I hadn't done something like that, but it is something that I thought about for some of the dragons going forward. The Boneknapper was Day 14's dragon, and it was a really cool concept to me as a kid. The idea is that it is a reclusive creature that hunts down other dragons and wears the bones from their victories as a set of armor / as trophies. I don't know if this is a unique thought about the dragon or not, as I'm not super up to date with the franchise, but there's another similar dragon to the Boneknapper called the Armorwing that does a similar thing with armor and metal scraps. So I have a personal theory that these two are the same dragons as they have similar collecting behaviors, just with different materials. I don't know if I'm wrong or if that's like a confirmed thing in the series, but that's just my thought. I took some inspiration from the more biologically feasible dragons from Skyrim, as the Boneknapper has a very similar wyvern-esque appearance. Getting the bones to sit in a more realistic way, though, while still using a similar placement to the movie was a big challenge, and one that I definitely could have done better were I to have more time. Unfortunately, I think this dragon is one of my weakest of the whole month, as the whole art piece just seems a little flat to me, and were I to know that placing the bones would be such a challenge, I might have tried a more unique approach. Day 15 is the Terrible Terror, one of the more well-known dragons, as it was sort of the unofficial mascot of the first movie. Seriously, if you were around back in 2010 when the first one came out, these guys were just all over the marketing. Looking sort of like a gecko in the way that their body is shaped and their behavior of licking their eyes, it was an easy choice for me to model these dragons more heavily off of geckos and anoles and other more pet-oriented lizards. Drawing-wise, this dragon is actually one of my more favorites out of the entire month, as it came out almost exactly as I conceptualized it, looking a lot like the lizards it's based on. This was another piece where I focused on the background a lot more and put a little shadow to make it sit more realistically in the frame. This also helped ground its 3D shape more to the viewer, in my opinion. Halfway through the week, we have day 16 and the Bewilderbeast. I placed this dragon here specifically because I thought it would be a fun dichotomy between one of the smallest dragons and one of the largest. The Bewilderbeast appeared first in the second movie, and I believe it was a bit of a replacement for the Red Death, the queen dragon from the first one, as it played a similar role in the second and third. This dragon, though not very traditionally dragon-like, looks super cool, looking like a bizarre hybrid between a mammoth and a whale and a lionfish. So I used all of these animals as reference for this piece. Though this piece was definitely not as different from the original as I would have originally pictured, and it wasn't as highly detailed, I still like it. I did, however, get a little more creative with the background to illustrate its massive scale. Like the change wing last week, the Bewilderbeast has wings that could absolutely not provide enough lift for it to fly. I don't actually remember if we ever see the Bewilderbeast fly in the movies, but in my version I kept the wings as more of a vestigial structure rather than a functioning body part. As for a creature like this to realistically be able to fly, its wingspan would have to be like miles. The Whispering Death was up next at day 17. Appearing to be a bit more inspired by the body plans of traditional Eastern dragons, the Whispering Death looks like some sort of snake with wings. I made a few more biologically minded tweaks to the original version, one of which was making the wings a little bigger, as even though a creature like this with a body that's absolutely as unaerodynamic as possible could never fly, the bigger wings at least gave it the illusion of a creature that could. The main real-world inspiration that I took, however, was using rattlesnake biology, and I used parts of the anatomy mostly to make the head a little more animalistic, as it was a bit cartoony in the original. I also posed its tail in a similar way to said rattlesnakes. With the white eyes, this dragon is another one of the dragons from the series that has the appearance of a creature from the deep ocean, and I think that's on purpose, as I believe this dragon is supposed to burrow underground, and as such, would probably be left in the dark for some time. So I kept that touch. Day 18 was another series icon, the Monstrous Nightmare. I think the Monstrous Nightmare is the most like a dragon that people would picture when you say the word dragon. Red and off-orange with a long neck, wyvern wings, and breathing fire. Yeah, that's 100% hot-blooded dragon. In all seriousness, though, this dragon design is really interesting, with the two sets of horns behind its eyes and the rather thin wings, with this swirling pattern on them. It's almost hypnotizing to look at. Another dragon that I took a little bit of inspiration from for this, mostly in how the wings attach to the breastbone and the size of the head in comparison to the neck, was the Tolkien character Smaug, specifically the one from the Peter Jackson movie adaptation. And yes, Smaug is where the name Smaugust comes from, for the maybe two people who don't know. And yes, I sort of used that inspiration so that I could talk about my favorite book a little bit, which happens to be The Hobbit. The final day of week 3 was day 19, and it was the Hotburple. I'm gonna be real with you here, I'm pretty sure the Hotburple is just the Gronkle. Like, yeah, I know, it's technically a different species, and it just looks similar, but aside from the different jaw shape and the eye placement, and in some cases, color differences that you see throughout the series, Yeah, you ain't fooling me. That's just the Chronicle. To differentiate the two from each other, I drew them in different poses and used the color palette of the Hotburple found in Vulca's Sanctuary for my version. But yeah, I'll be honest with you, along with the Boneknapper, this is one of the dragons that I'm not super happy with. I think it's too low detailed, and it doesn't have enough unique, real-world inspired biology for me to actually consider it a redesign. Although week 3 was a sort of difficult week for me to get through, I'm glad I finished it. I actually ran out of a lot of time this week as one of my birds had a medical emergency, and I spent all night and the following day of some of the days this week in the emergency vet with him. Thankfully, he's getting better now and should make a full recovery, but the 2 nights away from my computer and the 3rd night spent catching up on lost sleep while also trying to get through an entire work week meant that I had very little time to actually get any work done for week 3 of Smaugust. But hey, that's the whole point of a Smaugust challenge, to work with deadlines and get better at time management and work around unforeseen circumstances. With all that being said, I am excited for week 4 and plan to alter my art style slightly so that I might like more of my end products in the future. That's not to say that I'm not happy with Smaugust so far. I definitely am. It's super exciting. But I feel like given more time and 2 more weeks, I will hopefully like my last few designs a lot more than week 3. Here are some more of Carno13's dragon art, who is sharing their own artwork for Smaugust on the Discord. And to anyone who would like their Smaugust art to appear at the end of my videos, then make sure to submit it there before the end of the month. But as always, I hope you all enjoyed this video. And if you did, then leave a like. And if you want to see more like it, then subscribe. And turn on the bell to get notified when I upload next.